I saw this post on Twitter and I thought to myself, this is a little interesting. This user, Hunter, put up this particular article from a clawsomegamer.com that talked about a Newzoo report. Now, as to the Newzoo report, I guess we have to go somewhere and find it. And he said, Game Pass subscribers, and he said, in quote, sample a lot of games, but don't keep playing most of them. A user study reveals players who spend $50+ on a game are more likely to play them for longer. So I clicked the article, and the article is titled, Game Pass isn't changing how Xbox players play, but it's hurting big game sales. Now, this is a huge claim, but it's hurting, right? This is definitive. The study doesn't say that. The study says may be cannibalizing AAA games. May be. So that is a possibility. There is a clear distinct between the way the author writes this and the way the Newzoo folk actually go ahead and, categorize it. What we see clearly is a cannibalization of AAA premium games on Xbox Game Pass is what they write here. However, there are a few other things. Let me go ahead and start the article. We'll see how this article is written with a slant, and I'll show you that anybody can go ahead and find a similar behavior in other places, which will surprise you, one of them being PlayStation. This user writes, when Phil Spencer, took the stage a few years ago to announce to reveal Xbox Game Pass, many hailed it as a revolution. It's not been a few years ago, it's been about 8 years. A Netflix of games, they said. It is not a Netflix of games. It is like a Netflix of games as one area of its own proposition. There's always this mistake that you have to correct almost every single time whenever you make these videos. It's almost weird. Every day. I just got Resident Evil 3. It was $10.42. It was on sale. It's also on sale on Steam, but they had it on Game Pass. I started Resident Evil 2 here, and that went on sale as well too for like $9, so I got it. So again, you can't buy games on Netflix. In fact, your closest comparison is Amazon, which you can both subscribe to watch Amazon games and Amazon TV shows and movies for free, right? Or you can buy them. Reacher is one of Amazon's most popular TV shows. In fact, it's one of my favorites at this point in time. And then the Jack Reacher movies by Tom Cruise. You can, at some point, you could have subscribed and watched them, and then you can also buy them. Netflix does not do that, right? Netflix does not afford you that possibility. Fast forward to 2025, this author writes, let me go ahead and keep reading. Game Pass is causing more harm than good. How can you prove that? The service was supposed to change the way we play games, but it seems it did nothing of the sort. According to the news study, this particular claim right here, Game Pass is causing more harm than good, this is a fugazi. Do you know why? You cannot prove this, and I will show you that you don't prove this. Newzoo doesn't prove this, because there is a pattern for Game Pass that Newzoo does not highlight in this article. It says this: the service might not be changing player habits at all and could actually be cannibalizing major game sales. Could. Speaking to the Australian Interactive Games and Entertainment Association GameWise podcast, Newzoo's director of market intelligence, Emmanuel Manu Rosier, revealed that the company found no meaningful difference between Xbox Game Pass subscribers and between how Xbox Game Pass subscribers and PlayStation players engage with games. You know what's crazy is, shout out to Game Logic. I saw you post this. I muted Hunter, so it didn't show up on my feed. You said we knew this. But Xbox fans on social media refuse to accept knowledge that they are not a representative demographic of the entire Xbox user base. So perhaps what you're saying is that the bigger and the broader space actually behave differently. Something, though, that you didn't highlight, though, is that PlayStation gamers also would likely behave the same way if they had a service like Game Pass. Because from what we see, when we take a look at the kinds of games that are played across PlayStation and Xbox week in, week out, what we realize is like you have twins playing on both consoles. For instance, when we look at Mapis Catela's data set, his weekly engagement tracker for the week ending July 26th, it is literally like Jim and James, the twins, Jim and James, yeah, like Jim and John, were playing basically on 2 different consoles. So the one missing piece here that everybody keeps talking about is that what if PlayStation had a service like this? I wonder how that would, number one, affect PlayStation players' behavior, or number two, I wonder how they're going to go about it, because when we saw that PlayStation subreddit about Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus, what did we see? We saw that from that sample size, of which Newzoo did this from a survey of a sample size, that there were PlayStation Plus users that were dissatisfied with what PlayStation was offering compared to Xbox. So this framing, to me, is sinister, especially seeing how this is being put out here. Something we've noticed, this Newzoo director says, and we're a bit surprised, despite all efforts done by Microsoft with Game Pass, the acquisition of many studios, and the release of very high quality games in Game Pass, interesting, somebody noticed, we struggle to find significant different behavior compared to players on PlayStation. Ain't that crazy? Do you see that? Because number one, when you look and say many people sample games, you got to also go ahead and at least do this kind of survey to say, how many PlayStation Plus players are even actually playing those free games that PlayStation gives you? I know I don't. In fact, I stopped bothering claiming them, and my PlayStation Plus subscription is active as we speak. I think I got a 3-month when The Division brought that Brooklyn DLC out, and I have not bothered to even go get Lies of P or whatever it is. And it's not even on Game Pass, and I don't even own it. Cyberpunk 2077 I own on PC, not even bothered to even go ahead and claim them. Because again, we sample, but then when it comes to our playtime, we'll dump it on like 1 or 3 games max. There is no PC player, no Xbox player that I know, no PlayStation player that I know that plays a ton of games as these articles will expect, except for a handful. There are a few of you that, yes, you go hard. You're able to just concentrate and deal with multiple games. Me, I am playing either the Division long range, and then I sample a game here and there. If it interests me, I'll play and maybe beat it. But if not, I'm going back to this, or I'm going back to Street Fighter. That is how many of us engage with our games. This is not a surprise. Why do Xbox gamers have to be at the core subject of everybody's analysis, test, and whatever it is, like you'd find something different if you went to PlayStation? Apparently, according to even these folk, you won't. PlayStation, as Rosier said, Xbox players aren't really playing more games or spending more time, there's a typo here, gaming than PlayStation players. So we are a bit surprised there was not like a visible Game Pass effect on the behavior of players. Player behavior naturally is not going to shift from what it is that they're already doing. What happened was we just have a new generation of players that don't like buying games, number one, and a new generation of players that like the free-to-play games as they are already there and also like playing one individual game. I was at a birthday party this weekend, and I met a parent. And you know what his parent said? I play Apex, man, and my son, he likes playing Roblox. He said, well, I don't like playing Roblox, and the one game I like playing, he won't play. And he's like, the reason I even play Apex is I prefer to just play one game. I understand and I learned that game, and I don't want to sit there and be paying for all these other games. He's in Matt Piscatella's 30% that won't buy games. There are many of them. And he is actually a millennial. He's actually in our demographics. But he's actually like, more of a casual, what you call casual gamer. This is not news with Newzoo. My challenge here is understanding how the focus is on Xbox players and Game Pass, when I guarantee you, none of you who posted this, Game Logic or Hunter, would refuse a PlayStation service similar. You wouldn't. You'd be happy to pay for it. In fact, you pay for in some cases, I'm not saying both of you, but PlayStation gamers pay for an inferior version of it where they don't get PlayStation's games they want, but they do get third-party games they want. So at this point, I'm asking, what are we even talking about? Did they go ahead and do a survey for Ubisoft and its own titles and how gamers actually behave under Ubisoft's Plus premium subscription? Did they do one for EA Play Pro? This is a very tilted and slanted survey in terms of drawing the conclusions. But again, what do I know? Part of their methodology was to only count games that a player spent more than 2 hours 2 hours with, eliminating quick demos, Steam refund windows, blah, blah, blah. It exposed a trend. There's so much offering on Game Pass. Oh, that's crazy. That's an expose. Like, we didn't know that there was so much of an offering on Game Pass. If you're not getting hooked on the game very quickly, you just move on to another one and you try another one until you find the one where you get hooked. I saw an article yesterday that said a huge percentage of Netflix users don't use the service. Like, they don't use it. They just subscribe for it and they've just never bothered to unsubscribe, but they just want to have it anyways. That's a whole different, viewer behavior that can also be studied and talked about. The sampling behavior might seem harmless, but Roger said there's a downside. Then he says this: AAA games may be losing sales. What we see clearly is cannibalization of AAA sales of AAA premium games on Xbox Game Pass, on Xbox through Game Pass. What Rosier did not say is that Phil Spencer has explained. Let's go to the third-party side, because this particular notion is the weirdest thing ever. And I'm surprised that Hunter and everybody else is not looking at this whole situation, that so-called premium sales on Game Pass has already been paid for up front before the game makes its way to the service. Not only that, old games also make their way to the service. Games that have captured a majority of their share would then eventually make it into the service. Why is everybody somehow conveniently stepping over this very small, minute, yet important and pivotal detail? It's the strangest thing to me. I mean, are we gonna pretend like Guardians of the Galaxy? Let's see what this game is. Guardians of the Galaxy. This game, Xbox was reported to have paid millions of dollars to bring this game to their platform. It was on Game Pass way after it launched and released, and then I think it bombed at the time of its launch, right? Is anybody considering that the older games and the older titles coming to Game Pass is a plus after they've captured their market, and now the companies and the developers can leverage such a game and make money? Is Cyberpunk 2077 not on PlayStation Plus? In fact, what's crazy is PlayStation Plus is actually much more, in a sense, challenging to see how that game can cycle in and out to create scarcity and still be in a position where it can sell on the tail end. Because once you claim Cyberpunk 2077 on PS Plus, which is this month's release, hold on. So PS Plus, I can't remember, August 2025. Once you claim Cyberpunk 2077 and claim Lies of P, they stay in your library as long as you hold that subscription, and now cannot cycle in and out to create scarcity for you to go ahead and buy them. PS Plus is, in my opinion, a bad proposition for any game. This right here, of the cannibalization of AAA game sales through Xbox Game Pass, this right here has never actually sat down to consider what PlayStation is doing. Then they said the most prominent is Black Ops 6. It sold far fewer copies on Xbox compared to the previous years. You have to prove that. You do not know. Game Discovery's Simon Carlos noted that indie and AA developers may feel this effect less, as many Game Pass subscribers weren't buying their games in the first place. Neither were PlayStation subscribers either. In fact, PlayStation users were simply, in many cases, a huge chunk buying their platform for simple, titles such as Fortnite or Call of Duty, which the research showed, not even the research, the leaks from the FTC showed. You do get a lot of players coming in and trying your game on Game Pass, albeit much more sampling it way compared to the actual players who spend $50 on your game. What percentage is spending $50 on your game? They're more likely to try it for longer. Well, obviously, they just spent $50 on the game, right? How about those who spend $10 on the game? What is your analysis of those? Like me, who yesterday I was able to acquire Resident Evil 2, and I did acquire Resident Evil 1 for about $10 a piece. Then I was able to get, during the holiday, State of Decay for about $7 on here. What does the research show about folk like us? Anything? Anyone? Is there anything? Because again, this makes it seem like, oh, you would probably have played the game if you had paid $50 for it. Okay? How about those of us that paid $10 for it? What happens to it? Are we somehow forgotten in the whole analysis? Oh, wait. It goes to the backlog and never sees the light of day again. Come on. I understand the hate boner that many of you probably have towards Xbox. I'm not saying that any of you do, but I've seen a consistent, oh, look at Xbox. Is one thing is just wrong here. And this author even writes this. If Newzoo's findings are accurate, so do you actually take them seriously or not? Then Game Pass isn't reshaping how we play video games. It never was designed to reshape how you play video games. It was supposed to be an additive, obviously, for an option so that you may go ahead and, in a sense, purchase other titles that you probably want and engage in their titles the way you want, as they've already sorted out the financials. Can everybody do some light reading, please? It is actually reshaping how we buy games. Is it? And while that may make the service a great deal for players, this is where the article should have stopped. Then they went ahead and did the foot and mouth thing. It's raising big questions about the future of video game sales, especially on Xbox. This is the problem that we have. All this talk and everything put in place, right, and put in perspective, but none of it actually has considered that Xbox made about 20-something billion dollars, and of its revenue, about 5 billion of it was Game Pass in terms of subscriptions. So where did the other, huge percentage of billions of dollars come from? Where did it come from? Did somebody just, based on charity, give Xbox like another $18 billion? Did that not come from game sales and microtransactions? Y'all are bugging, man. That's my conclusion to this whole article and Newzoo's findings. Y'all are bugging.